Mayor Randall Woodfin.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's good to see everybody this evening. I want to thank you all so much for being here. I'll be honest, I got here early. I was kind of scared because it was like one resident here and then everybody else was staff. I was like, hold on, where's everybody? We figured the rain scared you all off, but I'm glad that the rain doesn't stop the show. I'm glad that as residents of our city, and particularly residents of District 5, you have decided to come out and be a part of this conversation. So I have a lot to say, and I'm going to set it up for you, but I don't want to get too far without first yielding the mic to my co-host, your representative of District 5 and President of the Birmingham City Council, Dr. Darrell Quinn. So y'all give it up for him.
Thank you, Mayor Woodfin. It's been a minute since we've done this. I guess back in the pandemic days, we did one virtual town hall, but it's good to actually be back live and do this in person. Unlike the mayor, I'm not really great with making extemporaneous comments, so I actually wrote my stuff down. So I'll just read through that. It'll be brief. Good evening and welcome to our District 5 Town Hall meeting. I'd like to start by thanking each and every one of you for being here tonight. It has been one of the highest honors of my life to be able to represent my District 5 neighbors since 2017. As the legislative branch of local government, it's the council's role to listen to concerns, advocate for our residents, guide city policy, and pass a balanced budget. It is crucial to have open and honest communication with your elected officials and with the people tasked with providing vital city services. That's what tonight is all about. My D5 team is here tonight to assist with questions and concerns. The D5 Chief of Staff, Maisha Hutchinson, she's over there in the alcove there, waving. Director of Operations and Engagement, Kimberly Phillips. Kimberly, please wave. And Engagement and Policy and Engagement Data Analyst, Garrett Crapia. Thanks, guys. I'd also like to take a moment to thank all of our city staff who are here answering questions and providing information to our residents, whether it's responding to emergencies, collecting our trash, or managing crucial administrative functions. Civil service workers are the backbone of our city, and they work tirelessly to create and maintain the best version of our city. So let's real quick just give them a hand for everything that they do for us every day. Many of the problems we face together can't be solved by government alone. That's why you see the phrase, the power of you, on everything we do in District 5. What does that mean? Well, quite simply, it's a reminder. It's a reminder that you do have the power to create change. The power of you. You have power to improve your neighborhood. Moreover, it's a reminder that I and we need your help. While laws and policies play a crucial role, true progress demands collective effort from each and every one of us. We must all pull in the same direction, and that can only happen if people feel empowered to do so. Again, that's what we attempt to do every day in District 5 and what tonight is all about. Thank you all again for being here. I look forward to this important conversation. Mayor.
Thank you, Darrell. Y'all give it up for President O'Quinn. And young lady, you have sneezed twice. Bless you. Bless you again. In all seriousness, and a couple things. I'm gonna make my way back to this podium because there's a PowerPoint where we want to provide you all information on what we've been able to do on your behalf in 2023. And then we're going to talk about 2024 in the form of questions from you. So this is not designed for some feel-good thing. It is designed to get down into some honest dialogue with the people we represent and serve. And so your questions are important to us. Does anybody have that card that I can see? We use this because if we just give you the mic, then it's hard to get to every question. So if and when you have a question, please raise your hand if you need another one, or if you run out, or if you don't have one. But we really will reserve a considerable amount of time for Q&A. With that said, he's already acknowledged him, but I want to thank a lot of team members and staff and administrators who lead these departments for being here. So turns out they're smarter than me, which is pretty cool. Well, yeah, they're smarter than me. And any questions Dr. O'Quinn and I cannot answer, they're here to do that. So with that said, I'm going to turn to the team to assist me in going through. We'll just jump right into this PowerPoint. A lot of what we do is centered around public safety, public infrastructure, and then there are things that support public safety and infrastructure. So we start with something that's important to all of us. Dr. O'Quinn and I talk about this a lot. We talk about this with his colleagues a lot. And one of the top concerns, complaints, requests we get is, pave my street. When are you going to pave my street? Why does the street have a pothole? I'm tired of this street damaging my car, et cetera, et cetera. So we've been on a very aggressive street paving plan for the last 6 years. You should know the streets that are being paved are in the rears. And so we budget money in one fiscal year, and that money is usually in a position to be allocated to actually go out and be paved the following year. In addition to that, you should know a considerable time of the year we're not able to pave streets because of the weather. So in months like January and February and March, and most likely at the end of the year, November and December, you won't see a lot of paving because the temperature outside needs to be a certain degree in order to pave. And so there's a window within in a 12-month span where we're actually able to pave streets. In addition to that, go through a process legally, financially, et cetera, to pave streets. With that said, Dr. O'Quinn and I inherited from the previous council and mayor an approved list of streets to be paved. We're paving those streets in the rears. In addition to that, you should know this council, thank you to Dr. O'Quinn and his colleagues, approved the process now that should start this year actually, where we will letter grade every single street in the city of Birmingham. A for the best streets, B for the second best, C, D, and F, and so on and so on. And the whole idea is to create a neutral, objective process that's not politically driven, that's not squeaky wheel driven, to make sure we're paving the worst streets first. So we look forward to actually receiving that information so we can actually publicly share it with you, your neighbors, and all the residents with the city. With that said, you see that it's $12.5 million if you go back that we put into citywide street paving. For District 5, you see that's that's a total of 246 segments, or equal to 43 miles across the entire city. And then you see within that 246 segments, just for your district, residents of District 5, you have 38 street segments that are paved. If you go to the next slide. Again, this is a continuation, $12.9 million that I think the council just approved that goes out to pave this year, 182 segments, 36 miles across the city, and then you'll have 18 segments Now, I don't use the word segments, and you don't either. So if you go to the next slide, I think we're in a position, and this is definitely too small. So I got a cheat sheet right here that I want to read to y'all, just some of them. We don't have time to go through all, but we have enough time to go through some. You got 32nd Street from 2nd Avenue North. I got it. I appreciate you, brother. It's too late. Thank you. Committed. Thank you, young brother. Street paving resurfacing in 2024, everybody. You got 32nd Street from 2nd Avenue North to 3rd Avenue South. You got Fred Shuttlesworth Drive from 12th Avenue North to 19th Avenue North. 6th Court South from 34th Street to 36th Street will be paved. 35th Street South from 6th Avenue to 7th Avenue will be paved. 37th South to 38th Street to 6th Ave will be paved. 6th Terrace from 34th to 35th. 1st Street West from 9th Court to 8th Avenue. That's more west. 4th Street West, 8th Terrace to 8th Avenue. 4th Street West from 10th Avenue to North End. 7th Street West from 10th Avenue to 11th Avenue. And the list goes on and on. For those who want the remaining, whether it's from Claremont or whether it's from 5th Avenue from the Stephen Expressway, or 5th Place from 8th to 8th Terrace. I'm missing so many other streets, which includes Arkadelphia and Caraway. If you don't know District 5, it runs east-west. It's pretty massive. One of the biggest districts from a landmass standpoint. How many neighborhoods?
15.
15 neighborhoods represent District 5. And so it is probably the most diverse in geographical area, as well as diversity in neighborhoods, topography, and everything else, with a host of issues and concerns. But the number one is street paving. So I did not name all of them because we would be here all night, but you have a considerable amount of streets being paved in District 5. With that said, if you go to the next slide, did we skip? Yes, capital projects. So, District 5, with 15 neighborhoods, you have a considerable amount of parks, recreation centers, and libraries. You have a considerable amount also of fire stations. And so I just want to name a few of the capital projects that have been done in your district, or what's going to happen. We start with Lewis Park renovation. Anybody familiar with Lewis Park? Yeah, the playground equipment has been ordered, as well as design and consultant agreement is currently in approval process. So that's in motion. 56th Street South sidewalk improvement. I think we know there was a unfortunate incident there that happened with the kid with the hit and run on Halloween, if you recall that. And so that project is being combined with Claremont Walking Trail. But that is from Crestwood Boulevard to 6th Court South. And so that project will eventually be complete, and that goes to not only health, but that actually goes to, I would say, if not more important, at a minimum equally, to safety. In addition to that, you have Eastlake neighborhood sidewalk repairs. As you know, Eastlake is on the grid as a square with First Avenue of Porto Madrid on one side, Higdon on the other side, and parallel 2059 on the other. And so from 3rd Avenue South and 73rd Street, you'll see a considerable amount of sidewalk repairs for Eastlake. And then you'll see two projects that's completed. I saw some residents here, I believe they're over here, who stay near Barrett Elementary School. There's been some sidewalk repair and replacement completed, as well as anybody stay in the Smithfield area. No residents from Smithfield tonight? Well, if you live near Smithfield, walking or driving distance, the Smithfield Fitness Center is now complete and repaired. So that's just a tidbit, a snippet of some capital projects that are either active or completed. With that, I want to turn our attention to public works. So potholes is a little separate from street paving. Street paving we have to outsource, and that's a combination of work with the PEP department, the transportation department, along with capital projects. But our pothole repairs are internal. And there's a system we've created that I think the head of Public Works can explain way better than I can. We all get tired of potholes. We all get tired of dodging potholes. But we want you to know when we get the request, there is a system in the process. And just in District 5, we've been able to complete 188 repairs. That's not anything we're bragging about. We're just showing you the sheer volume of complaints and two that we've addressed and responded to. I do want to talk about the citywide garbage process. One, I want to say thank you for being patient with us. This is a new process. I've shared this conversation with many of our team members of our Y. I've shared it with neighborhood officers of our Y. But we haven't really been able to, Dr. O'Quinn, that's fair to say, just talk to regular, everyday citizens about our Y. So this is a good time, if this is okay with y'all. By the way, neighborhood officers, show of hands. I should have acknowledged y'all. Please stand so you can be recognized. These are neighborhood officers of the neighborhoods in District 5. Yes. And thank you for your voluntary service and being crazy like Dr. O'Quinn and I. I want to thank y'all for being here and putting up with a lot of crazy stuff. But sincerely, thank you for being here tonight and leading in your neighborhoods. But everybody listen. We've been dealing with our trash the same way for a gazillion years. And what's happened over the years is two things. In my left hand, we have been so nice and kind that we not only pick up your trash once a week, we were picking it up twice a week. And we were so kind that in 6 out of 7 days a week, we were picking up whatever people put down. And there's two problems with that still in my left hand. One, those who are nasty, those who do illegal things like litter and illegal dumping, can easily blend in because any form of trash was always on our streets, a minimum of 6 days a week. My right hand, you have employees who get hurt from jumping off the back of a truck, pick something up, anything's in the bag, a nail, glass, you name it, and all forms of injury either by hand or by back. And then we have men and women out of service that delays our ability to be on time for the pickup of routes throughout our city. Josh, how many routes? 20 what? How many routes are there in our city? Any team member? 24. There are 24 garbage routes for the entire city of Birmingham daily. So what we wanted to do is switch to a more efficient system. One, with the hope of it being more efficient. Two, making our city cleaner. And three, keeping employees healthy and safe. What's the best way to do that? Switch to uniform trash bins. So the 96-gallon trash bins pay for with tax dollars. If you need a second one, you have to purchase. And there's a process. We can describe that if you have that when we get done with this with Q&A. And then we're moving to uniform trash, actual, the vehicles with the lift to keep employees safe. All of that allows it to be more efficient, a cleaner city, and our employees safe. But that also allows us to go after those who do illegal things easier because you can't blend in anymore. And so when we finally get to an efficient camera system, which we'll talk about at some point, probably from one of your questions, it allows us to target illegal dumping better. So that's that. Next slide. Connect Birmingham. This is something that I want to go into detail about. And jump in anytime you want. You have two neighborhoods that are outliers in crime in District 5. It does not discount that crimes against property and crimes against persons have taken place in the other 13 neighborhoods. But in the Central Business District, we had some repeat offenders doing theft and auto theft. And then in Crestwood North, you had one person repeatedly taking property and or gifts off of private property, stealing basically. Darrell Quinn, how long have we been talking about this? For months. So I want to break this down. I'm coming back to this Connect program, but I want to explain to you what happens. People point to the police and say, why aren't you arresting that person? Well, if the police doesn't see it, we can't arrest. So then you as a citizen will say, I got full proof they did it. We tell you to go make a complaint. You file a complaint, take it down to the magistrate office. A warrant is issued for that person. We go make the arrest. This is the part y'all don't know about. That's extremely frustrating to Dr. O'Coin and I. It's extremely frustrating to the chief of police and the deputy chiefs of police and the assistant chief of police and all the officers you all see back here. Our court system, our judicial branch of government, has to abide by the statutory laws created by legislators in Montgomery. And the laws are pretty direct. If it's not crimes against persons that are pretty violent, a lot of people can simply just sign themselves out. And a person hits your neighborhood, they hit your neighborhood, they hit your neighborhood and stealing something. They're literally able to get a signature bond, sign out, go steal again, arrested again, go to jail again, sign out again, and on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. You want to share with them one of the stories without mentioning any names?
Well, I think about my own neighborhood, Crestwood North, where we've had a number of residents, witness in this incidents. They have video, they have pictures, we have eyewitnesses, and the same individuals have been observed, committing crimes, and residents are extremely frustrated. There's been a lot of community engagement with the police department, East Precinct in particular. Thank you, Captain Quigley. And we're all equally frustrated that these guys are still out walking the streets. And so Mayor Woodfin has heard from me, about this concern a lot of times, many times. And to his credit, he's, talked to everybody.
DA, the head judges, all of them.
Right. So this situation where, Alabama is not a home rule state. And what we are capable of doing is largely determined by the powers that the state legislature gives us. And this is one of those situations where we need our state legislature to help us. And let me just get off on a tangent for a second. So we are not the only elected officials that represent you, all right? You see us a lot, you hear from us a lot, but you guys elect a whole ton of people. And I would dare say that we're in front of you, talking to you, listening to you, a whole heck of a lot more than those other people's whose names you filled in the circle by. So the same, credit and blame that you give us, I encourage you to give those other elected officials that you have supported in the past. And those include some of those folks in the House and the Senate in Montgomery.
I mean, we don't plan to ether anybody tonight. It's cool though. So that's the problem. I want to talk about a solution to that problem because you deserve a solution. We want to come here, one, to encourage you, and two, to feel empowered, which this Connect program is about empowering you in a minute. But the encouraging part is this. 9 other mayors and myself, so 10 mayors, decided to champion something called Anaya's Law. We were getting beat up on the crimes against persons end, where people were committing violent crimes, shooting into homes, shooting people who survived, but they were able to just bond out. Anaya's law was created. It required the legislators to pass. It requires voters to vote on it. Fortunately, voters like you and across Alabama voted in support of Anaya's law. The name Anaya, if you don't recall, came from a young lady, unfortunately, down a student at Auburn, who was raped and killed by a person who was out on bond who had committed another crime, heinous crime against a person. So the idea was to stop the revolving door. Well, the part of that I'm sharing is why I want you to be encouraged is because as mayors, as city councilors, we need to go back and talk to our legislators about other crimes. Should a person be locked up for theft forever? The answer is no. But should that same thief be able to break into your house or break into your car, get caught, be arrested, go to jail, and sign out over and over again? The answer is also no. So we need to find some balance. What that balance is, I don't know. But what we can say, currently that hurts us. And then you locally end up looking at O'Quinn and the chief and police and I like, why are you allowing this to happen? The judges don't even have the discretion to stop this. They have to abide by what the statutory law says. That's a lot of information, but that's something you needed to know as everyday citizens. With that said, the Connect program is very simple. How many of you all, by show of hands, have some form of cameras on your home? All right, that looks like a minimum of half of the residents in here. The Connect program is twofold. It is for residents and it is for business owners. What we found deeply embedded in our crime situation in the city of Birmingham is that either there is a culture where people know what happened but refuse to comply and or share information, or genuinely people are scared. They know what happened but they don't want to come forward because of fear. The Connect program is an opportunity to cut through both of those things. If a crime happens within the vicinity of your home or your business, if you partner with the city of Birmingham through the Connect program, then instead of just talking with you, you've already given us permission to be in a position just for that isolated incident and or a crime to use your footage to be in a better position to investigate crime and or solve crime, and more importantly, take a criminal off the street. There was an instance, I want to say 2 Decembers ago, where a car pulled up into a neighborhood on the eastern side of town and unfortunately shot into this home and killed an innocent child. And we didn't have any witnesses, everybody. But what we did have was a license plate reader somewhere that was able to ping that license plate, and we were able to track that car. And hours later, those crazy people were still crazy enough to drive in that car, and we were able to catch the shooters. Why is that important to you? Because the truth is, in your 15 neighborhoods that you live in, crime does exist. Crime does happen. And the best way for us to decrease crime in our city is to actually be in a position to arrest those committing crime. But if we don't have witnesses, if we don't have people who come forward, then it makes our ability to solve crime and investigate crime harder. And that allows criminals to feel emboldened. So this conversation is extensive because I need you. We need you. The police department needs you. But more importantly, if it's not your home, if it's not your loved one, your neighbor needs you. Please take the time. Marie, tell somebody, help me. What is the website? Dang, that's a lot. All right, did y'all hear Marie? Did everybody hear her? Because I want you to go to this website, read more about Connect, but I need you to sign up to be our eyes and ears to help us investigate crime, be an ability to solve crime, and take criminals off the street without you even being in a position to testify. One more time. birminghamal.gov/connect Birmingham. Did I get it right?
No, Mayor. Here it is.
Dang, so violent. birminghamal.gov.
It's police. Police.Birmingham. It's police.Birmingham.
Can y'all see that?
It's right here.
We have two sites. We have the birmingham.gov/Birmingham.
Thank you. Thank you. Everybody's helpful. So, it turns out we got two websites. I'm going to give you the easy one. Y'all ready for it? birminghamal.gov/connect Birmingham. Please check it out. Please encourage your neighbors to sign up. Please encourage those who you know have cameras to sign up. Please encourage those small business owners you know. This is an amazing tool within our toolbox for the ability to solve crime. Chief, am I missing anything? Do you want to add anything? This is a good time if you do.
Yes, sir. So I think a lot of people are waiting for someone else to do this because we've had less than 75 businesses and residences sign up for this. It's imperative that everyone comes together to assist us with this program. And we rolled this out in about October, and only 75 residences or businesses have signed up so far is not good. So we need your help so we can help you and prevent crime and make arrests in your communities and where your businesses are. So please sign up. We don't want to, ma'am.
Can you make it where we can sign up on our phone?
Yeah, we'll get more efficient. We need to work on that. We want this process to be efficient, but the reason we're harping on this so long is because it turns out in 7 crime categories, everybody, 4 went down in 2023. Now, because the news is always in your face, you may think crime went up in 2023, but that's not the case. In 7 major categories of crime, homicides, rapes, robberies, felony assaults, theft, auto theft, and burglary, 4 of those went down, including homicides. But I want us to be in a position to take more criminals off the street. But that only works when everyday residents feel empowered. We're not Big Brother. We're not trying to watch your house. That's not even how the program works. If and when a crime happens, you're just giving us permission, if a crime takes place on your street or in your vicinity, to be in a position to maybe have some additional video of what happened, what took place, a description of the person, a description of the vehicle, a make and model of the car and or tag. That is the information we need to collect. You have the power. You should feel empowered. This is a new form. This is the 2024 new age version of Neighborhood Block Watch. Think about it like that. Except you don't have to be outside. Please consider it. I hope the chief's in a position to tell me tomorrow that more people signed up. Thank you.
So I just want to give you an example of why this is really not anything new. So I've been a member of the Nextdoor website for as long as it's been in existence. And that's not an endorsement, by the way, but anyway, but just over the years, having observed how residents use Nextdoor as a way to connect with one another, oftentimes what you'll see is when a crime has occurred, people will go on there and reach out to their neighbors and say, hey, does anybody have a camera that could have been facing the street when this happened? What the police department is asking you to do is no different than your neighbors asking, hey, do you have a security camera that could have, caught who did this? So the registry is just that. Like, if in the unfortunate circumstance that there is an incident that occurs in proximity to your home, having this registry allows the police department, rather than going door to door, to already have a list of where the cameras might be that could have caught who perpetrated the crime. So just wanted to provide that example that this is something that you do amongst yourselves or that happens every day amongst neighbors already. We're just extending that and making it a little bit more official with a registry program through the police department.
Yep, you did it, believe it or not, in District 5, Halloween night. Again, there was a hit and run. And I remember I was in the area, actually. And I remember being overly concerned, and outside of the child being okay and worrying and praying about the child, I wanted to get a person off the street that was comfortable hitting the child and just speeding off. So I remember when Chief gave me some initial information, we didn't have a lot. But it turns out residents in that neighborhood definitely came together. And they were in a position to, the car didn't live far. Turns out it lived in that area. Saw the car, saw the tag, shared it with him, he shared it with me, I shared it with the chief, boom. That's how we solve crime. We solve it through everyday, ordinary citizens who love and care about their block, their street, their neighborhood, their community, our city. I know we went on for a long time on this topic, but I know public safety is on y'all's mind. I know not only crime is where it is, but even the perception of crime is on your mind. This is a way for us to collectively solve it, so please check out the website if you got cameras, sign up, voluntarily opt into this program, help us get criminals off the street. I got one last slide and then we'll open it up for questions. We talk about code enforcement. We know we got some neighbors who never do their job, right? They never are responsible. We talk about slumlords. We talk about absentee owners. And then we talk about the people in between who just don't care. But we spent a lot of time on code enforcement, and this was a priority for the council in the current budget that ends June 30th to hire more employees who only focus on this. So at a high level, I'm going to talk about blight removal. You see the structures that are currently have been identified for condemnation. But then you see the actual violators. The number of inspections in your district last year totaled 383 separate homes. And then vacant properties, 325 that we actually cut in your district. By the way, we're not, it's not sustainable to just cut grass. We'll talk about that later. And then you have 189 occupied code violations. But Ms. Katrina, if you could share with this audience the responsibility of what those new employees are doing in District 5, and then Ms. King, if you can, talk about DNET.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Katrina Thomas, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of the Department of Planning, Engineering, and Permits. And code enforcement is so important to us because we know it's important to you all because it helps us keep our community clean and safe. So when we talk about code enforcement, it's about the detection of it, the prevention of it, and also the enforcement of it. And so we are very happy to report that we now have, in addition to our existing code enforcement officers, we now have 4 APOS certified code enforcement officers, thanks to coordination with the Department of Police. And those 4 officers are assigned throughout the city, one per quadrant of the city, north, east, south, and west. They'll be housed inside of each precinct, and we are so thankful for them because they will be able to actually go out, and we're mainly focusing on occupied properties to be able to issue citations right on the spot for environmental code enforcement issues that are related to inoperable vehicles, overgrown lots, junky properties, the things that we see all the time. And we believe that that presence in the community will be able to drive compliance on some of the issues that we're seeing. And so that will combine with our existing operations and enforcing those issues on a daily basis. And we're also being more present and having education opportunities like this. And we had coffee with code enforcement this morning at the Fountain Heights Recreation Center. I see quite a few people who were there this morning, and they had a chance to engage with us, ask questions, and also engage with those new officers with those new duties. So that is some of the things that we're proud about and that we're doing as it relates to code enforcement. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Katrina Thomas. Everybody, this is Nicole King, who leads the city legal department. DNAT, if I'm correct, stands for Drug Nuisance Abatement Team.
That's correct.
So could you please share with them what that means and what it does?
Good evening, everyone. So I want to tell you a little bit about what Mayor Woodfin has introduced us as the DNAT team. That's short for the Drug Nuisance Abatement Team. And what we do is we target these problem properties that are in your areas that have drug and nuisance problems that exist. And so there's a lot of things that we look at. We look at how many times are you having to call the police? Are you afraid to leave your house? Have you all observed drug activity? Overgrown weeds, lots, things of that nature, rodents, those are things that we also look into. We have just recently been fortunate enough to get 2 what we call court service officers. These officers work with our team to help serve summons to get people to come to court. And I see a lot of familiar faces out here, and I want to thank you all for contacting us and letting us know about these problem properties. I want our team, if I can acknowledge our investigator, Ms. Lyra Perkins. We have 2 of our attorneys, if they can please stand. This is our chief of the litigation division, Mr. Joseph Abrams and Brandon Johnson, and our 2 officers, if you can raise your hands. We're working hard for you all. Please don't hesitate to reach us at problemproperty@birminghamal.gov. Again, that's problemproperty@birminghamal.gov or 205-254-2369. I will say that in the past year or so, we have processed 107 drug nuisance properties, and we have handled 20 cases successfully in court and accumulated over $15,000 that has gone back to the city's neighborhood revitalization fund. So thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. King. All right, we're getting ready to turn this show over to Rick Journey, everybody, and the other team members who engage in questions. So if you have the card with your question, you can raise your hand. Somebody's going to come by and take it. Have we already collected those? We want to come by and pick up your card because we're getting ready to switch our program over to Q&A. As people come and collect those, before Quinn and I hand our mics over to them, of course we'll answer the questions, but they will say the question out loud for everybody to hear. There are 2 other elected officials here that I failed to mention, and I apologize. I do want to recognize 2 of our city Birmingham Board of Education board members. This is not a spend the night. Okay, thank you. I said that? Sorry. Everybody want to recognize James Sullivan, who represents District 5 School Board. And I want to recognize Derek Billups as well, who represents the school board. Am I missing anybody? Oh, and Carol Clark, City Council District 8. So listen, we're on your time for the next 30, 40 minutes, as many questions as you have. We go through this process answering your questions.
Mayor, the first questions that pop up, I'm actually doing this off the top of my head because I I was looking through to see if there were any common ones. So there's a couple of things that are very common: East Lake, Wahoma, other areas, stray animals and mistreated dogs and animals in those areas. What's being done to do? Is there enough? Is it being enforced, and what's being done to address it?
Yeah. So, as Josh Yates comes up, everybody, Josh Yates is over Department of Public Works. Before he speaks, I want to set it a little bit because I know this is an important topic. I know it is a sensitive topic. And of all the issues in our community, this is the one where we got some sincere vigilantes. I wish this activity around this was for like other issues. We could probably solve a lot of things in our community. So I do want to thank the people who are very passionate about this. You should also know that it is the #1 complaint via calls for services that come into 311. I've lost count. Josh, if you want to share that information, you can. As you set the stage, please tell them the distinction between your department, when the police department needs to be involved, as well as the Humane Society, which is its own separate function from us, and then the issues at hand, and then the solutions you've been putting in place to solve these issues.
Thank you, Mayor Woodfin, and thank you for the introduction. So one of the things about animal control that's very tricky, that we do run into quite a lot, is when we get called for animals, a lot of times when we go out, they're not there anymore. So it's a cat and mouse game we play a lot of times when it comes to animals. As the mayor mentioned, it is a very sensitive topic. And one thing I don't want to ever be misconstrued is that the city doesn't care. Our animal control officers care very, very much. And they're out there every day in the community. In fact, as far as what the mayor mentioned earlier, calls throughout the city. How many people have had missed garbage before? I'm sure everybody at some point has had missed garbage that's been called and reported in. Animal control tops every list in our entire city as far as calls. There are more calls for animal control than there are for missed garbage. There's more calls for animal control than missed bulk or missed recycling. Animal control tops the list. And our officers are out there every day. They try to address the calls that come in, as well as trying to be proactive in looking for areas where they have repeated calls. A lot of times, we don't have a way of sharing everything that we do when we go out there on those calls. We can say we've been out there and we haven't been able to find it, but 2 days later, we may pick up those dogs, actually see them and able to pick them up. In 2023, we picked up over 2,000 animals, stray animals off the streets.
I don't know if they heard the number. Repeat that number.
Over 2,000 animals were picked up off the streets in 2023. We have a team that cares and really tries to get after it. They set traps. They do a lot of the things that they can do to try their best to catch animals that are loose. When it comes to the abuse and neglect of animals, that seems to be a very, that comes as a very touchy subject as well. A lot of cases involve individuals that take in animals trying to help that end up not having the means to help. So we do as best as we can to try and work with them to say, hey, that's not compliant, and we give them a time frame of getting into compliance. And so if they fail to meet that timeline, that's a lot of times when we get BPD involved. We'll call our Birmingham Police Department and let them know this is what we found, this is our issue, we've given them a timeline, they have not come into compliance, and then they'll start their process. But abuse, neglect, investigations that have to occur, they're the investigators, they're the ones that handle that type of work. We catch animals, we also pick up ones that have been hit by cars, we take them to the pound, we do all of those elements of animal control, and our officers work very hard with that. And then in the event we find other issues that are beyond our capabilities, we do turn those over to the police department. I hope I addressed that well, Mayor.
Yeah, tell them, go a little bit on the Great Humane Society, conversation with them.
So the Greater Birmingham Humane Society, and also is known as ACC, Animal Control and Care, they are the pound. They are a third party that the county is hired to take animals in, to house animals. The pound only has so many spots. They have to go through the process of euthanization. They have to go through the process of trying to heal pets when they have space available and can keep them. So the more animals that we bring in, the more animals that they may have to euthanize. So it's a very sensitive subject. We could add officers to the streets and impound more animals, but that could potentially be more animals that are euthanized. So there's a balance here that we're trying to find. We want to be compassionate. We want to try our best to get animals off the street, especially animals that are vicious or aggressive. We really target those. Out of all the calls that come in, those are the ones we really try and stick to more often than not. And if an animal's been taken to the pound and the owner came and got him out, that animal it's very hard to catch a second time. So if we're dealing with animals that have been caught and then released again because the owner has come out and released them, that poses a lot of problems, because when they see that truck pull up or that trap, they will not go anywhere near it. So that's a little bit about that. The pound handles basically everything to do with housing the animal, taking it in, and then if they have to, they go through the euthanasia process as well.
Thank you. So I want to go a little deeper on how sensitive this topic is. We all get it. It doesn't just get to Josh Yates. When James Fowler transportation teams out there, they see it, and other departments out there, they see it. It gets all the way to the chiefs on our team and leadership on our team, and we continue to have conversations about how can we improve. What's missing from the conversation is the shared responsibility. Let me define the word shared. I don't mean to get too philosophical, but Dr. O'Quinn and I talk about civic responsibility and how of all forms of government, the local level is the one, if you want it to be successful, it's a participatory sport. It doesn't just work if you put the onus just on us. So you got all these stray dogs out here, and we pick up over 2,000 last year. That is a considerable amount of work on the city's part to capture over 2,000. And guess what's going to happen in 24? It's going to be another 2,000. So at some point, I don't know if it's Montgomery, I don't know if it's this young man and his colleagues, who one just walked in. We see you, JT Moore. Good to see you, brother. We're calling you out. We love you. But we got to do something that makes the residents responsible for their part in this, because that's what's missing. Am I missing something on that?
No. It's absolutely right. And this is something that I really care a lot about. So some of you will know that part of my professional background is as a veterinarian. So this is an issue that I'm really familiar with. I've done my fair share of spays and neuters on cats and dogs and other species of animals too. But the reason that I really feel strongly about this, besides the fact that it's just a general nuisance problem, is that this issue has a profound impact on quality of life in neighborhoods and on public health. So back in I think it was the early 2000s, the Jefferson County Department of Health did a community survey where they were trying to identify what barriers to improved public health existed in neighborhoods. So it should be no surprise to you that we have a lot of older residents in the city of Birmingham, and we have a very high incidence of obesity, heart disease, renal disease, and other preventable diseases. And one of the main ways of preventing a lot of those diseases is through getting out and getting some exercise. And what better way to get out and get exercise than to go take a walk in your neighborhood? But if you're so afraid that you're going to be attacked by a vicious dog that you do not get out and walk in your neighborhood, then that is impacting your life expectancy. And the Jefferson County Department of Health Community Survey identified the fear of being attacked by a dog as the number one reason that many of the folks that live in the city of Birmingham give for not wanting to get out and exercise on a regular basis. So this is not just about dogs, roaming through the neighborhood. This is about improving life expectancy for our residents. That's why I feel like we need to do more to address this issue.
Sir. Rick?
The other one that we're getting a lot of questions about is exhibition driving, particularly in the Central City. One of the questioners, I think, kind of sums up a lot of it. Since the new tougher legislation was enacted, it seems like the belligerence of the exhibition drivers has not changed. What is being done and what can stop this?
It's a really fair question. It's also a question I knew would come up. It's also a question I knew of all 15 neighborhoods. Central City, where I was a resident for 15 years, gets the brunt of it. The 3rd Avenue West Quarter gets the second largest brunt of it. Actually, probably in order, 3rd Avenue West, then Central City. Lakeview District gets a lot of it. John Rogers Drive out there by the racetrack gets a lot of it, where there's not a lot of police presence and a straight drag, if you will. And there are other pockets. So we lobbied, City Council and the Mayor's Office lobbied to create a own traffic violation of what's called exhibition driving, which is different from reckless driving. We were fortunate. The legislators passed it. It's on the books now. It allows for the ability to give a ticket, to increase fines, to suspend license, and to actually impound the vehicle. And so the law has some super teeth that we're excited about. But guess what? Like any other traffic violation, speeding, running a red light, failure to yield, and you insert any moving violation, guess what has to happen? The police officer has to see it. Officer in the state of Alabama cannot give a ticket to something they didn't see. Josh Yates mentioned earlier to you that you call when there's a stray dog, and when our team gets there, that dog is no longer in that vicinity. Can't capture the dog. You see, you witness, you call about exhibition driving, we respond. By the time we get there, they're not there, we can't give a ticket. So, problem that I just described. Solution. We get resistance, we as in the council and the mayor's office, when we talk to the legislators who represent us down in Montgomery, that there's some reason that I can accept now, where legislators don't want to use traffic cameras in lieu of an officer being able to witness the traffic violation, i.e. exhibition driving. They don't want to use any forms of cameras. They have their reasons. What you will see from Dr. O'Quinn and I and his colleagues this year is to beg, plead, ask, advocate, jump up and down and scream for an exception to the rule. You don't want traffic cameras to be used in the city limits of Birmingham for speeding? We don't agree with it, but we'll accept it. Fail to yield, we'll accept. Running the stop sign, rolling stop sign, we'll accept. And insert any other moving violation. But please give us the exception to allow traffic cameras to be used for exhibition driving. Y'all, they're so reckless. They feel so emboldened, and they know the rules. Sometimes they remove their tags. Sometimes it's a lot of stolen vehicles. They know if the officers don't see it, they know they can't get a ticket. Like, they know the rules. They know the game as best as we do. And there's only one way to offset that. Allow the exception for camera usage. The law does not allow us to unilaterally put cameras up and allow the police to send a ticket in the mail. The legislators in Montgomery have to approve a bill to allow us locally to use cameras. Y'all think that's crazy? I think. But let's play the game. Let's get them, let's convince them, and let's, at a minimum, allow this exception for exhibition driving, because it's hurting all of us, our quality of life, our ability to sleep, people being hurt, the recklessness of it, property, I can go on. And we're all tired of it as well. Want to add anything? Did I miss anything?
Talk about the traffic calming approaches that we're using to address that. So we'll say, just as a lead-in, so when I got to City Hall in 2017 with Mayor Woodfin, the idea of doing traffic calming was not an idea. There was plenty of people in the community who wanted traffic calming, had probably been asking for a stop sign or a speed bump for the past 30 years. And the answer for 30 years had been no. So that was such a thing in City Hall that the person who was responsible for saying no was called Dr. No. And then James Fowler came along.
So that's a great setup, everybody. This is James Fowler. He leads the Department of Transportation. But you're right, I remember that. And with his team members are here if he wants to recognize them. They've done an amazing job over the last 6 years. We stole him. He wasn't even in the city. We recruited him. He said yes. He's crazy like us. Thank you, James. But there is a way outside of policing, outside of cameras, to be in a position to make neighborhoods safer. They've led a very aggressive, in partnership with neighborhoods, by the way, with traffic calming. So, wax on.
Thanks for the kind words. Again, my name is James Fowler. I serve as the director of the city's Department of Transportation. I do have a couple colleagues here with me tonight. So Deputy Director Kelvin Blevins, and then our Special Projects Manager Christina Argo. So she's here. I'm going to talk real quickly about 3 aspects of traffic calming. One, where it's working really well and where it's requested the most, which is in residential areas. So in our neighborhoods, in front of my house, I live in Birmingham, we often see knuckleheads driving way too fast on those streets. And where we have put in speed cushions and some other kind of physical measures in that environment, it's working very, very well. And it has been a very popular program, so we now have several hundred requests. We have a huge backlog. So that has started small, but it is gearing up quickly. I think we're going to continue to hopefully grow that program and our capacity to deliver that more quickly. But that has worked very well. One area where it has not worked as well, and we're open to trying new ideas, so please contact our office if you have ideas. But you may have seen where we put speed bumps downtown. And I think that maybe helped. The intent of that was not to slow down traffic, but rather to discourage people doing donuts. And so, they're a little bit annoying to drive over. But what we found is that product in that environment, we just couldn't maintain it because it's just not made for that. So we were out there constantly reattaching those. So we pulled that up. So that's a second aspect. If you have other ideas, please reach out to our office. But a third area where I think it will help, and this is a much slower, more gradual process, but I think it's the best solution, is over hopefully the next 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 30 years, we're going to continue to redesign our streets. Over the last century, we worked really hard to make all of our roads very accessible for vehicles in such a way that it enabled us to drive really fast on those roads. Even those of us that are really cautious, just the way the roads were designed, those big one-ways, for example, and wide streets wider than they need to be, we are trying to back away from that, and because we spent so long building our infrastructure that way, it's going to take us a long time to rebuild it, but we have applied for and won many grants that we're over the next several years going to try to implement, where we redesign streets, narrow lanes, work with our fire department because we have to be cautious about emergency access. So I certainly don't want to leave out that aspect of the discussion. It's an important part. But we're gradually redesigning our street network to change how we all drive. So those are 3 areas where we're implementing traffic calming.
Again, another one that I'm seeing common in lots of cards, Central City, but throughout in multiple locations, is about car break-ins and concerns about car break-ins. And then someone from Fountain Heights Road also, it just doesn't seem like there's enough patrolling.
I'm going to have actually 2 team members come up. Chief Thurman come up, and Deputy Chief Pickett come on up. I'm going to let Chief Thurman go last. His Deputy Chief of Patrol is actually here. His officers are here. He can introduce them. Deputy Chief and I used to be neighbors, and we saw a lot of stuff downtown. And over the course of years, we both built relationships with business owners. So every now and then I get a call from one of those break-ins. And I call him to say, hey, I need you to go finesse that and then give it to the people who investigate. But I call him a lot and he's seen a lot. So if you could just share the whole car break-in piece and what we're trying to do around it.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am very happy to serve as in my role as Deputy Chief of Special Operations for the Police Department. To touch on a little bit of what Mayor Woodfin just spoke about, just in general, UBVs or car break-ins, we in law enforcement, we refer to them as UBVs. It's a very difficult crime for law enforcement to address. The reason being, when you see a patrol car driving down the street and you're a criminal, you see them, they hit the block, they go to the next light, they turn right. Okay, let me hit this window real quick. You know, so we'll get the call, we'll get there, just like they said about the animals. When we get the call on, you know, it looks like somebody's suspicious on my street. I heard a weird noise. By the time law enforcement gets there, patrol gets there, they're gone. And sometimes we may actually see someone walking down the street and we'll try to address that issue. We'll try to engage that person, conduct what we call a field interview, and see what we can find on them. See if we can see if they have any burglary tools, see if they have anything that possibly has been taken from the vehicle. So we do everything we can on the patrol side. But one thing that we're working on currently right now, they talked about the cameras earlier. One thing we're working on is getting cameras in these high UBEV or high car break-in areas, because you know we don't have the police resources to sit on every single street and just sit and watch all night long. Because typically, what time do car break-ins happen? And really between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. when you're in the dead of your REM sleep. Okay, if you're lucky. All right, so that's when they use different tactics and approaches to get in that car real quick. And of course, another issue that we do have is a lot of people leave their doors unlocked or they forget. You know, so, and then also, you got the bars, you have the restaurants, things of that nature. They focus on those areas. okay? And then we had the gun law that changed in the state of Alabama to where we have what? Everyone can conceal carry, right? Unless you have some type of conviction. So criminals know that a lot of people may go to a bar, club, restaurant, and that club may not allow weapons in because they what? They pat you down before you go in at some establishments. Well, people go back to the car, they put their gun in the trunk or they put it in the glove box or wherever, and then what happens? The criminals is just sitting there watching, and when that person goes back inside and no one's looking, you know, they'll take that time to try to break in the car. So we have beefed up our business compliance unit. This is in an effort to address the break-ins around the clubs in particular, the night establishments. So we now have an overnight business compliance officer. The day shift business compliance officer will go to different businesses and they'll make sure those businesses are in compliance. Well, now we have an overnight business compliance officer. That's something new that we've implemented. So what we're trying to encourage the business owners in the clubs and things of that nature to do is to have proper lighting around their businesses, their clubs and bars, things of that nature. Have exterior cameras to be able to catch things like that. And then also we encourage them to have security officers who are placed on the outside to monitor for those folks that are walking around, pulling on door handles, things of that nature. So we have a lot of things that we're working on, and I'll let Chief elaborate a little bit more, but those are some of the approaches that law enforcement that we're doing to try to address some of these issues. And of course, when we do come out and we speak to folks that are victims, we try to encourage them, hey, make sure you lock your doors. Make sure you don't leave any valuables in your car, things of that nature, because they will literally look into the car. If they don't see anything, they'll move to the next one. But if they do see something, they'll take that as an opportunity, to steal something. And lastly, another approach that we have implemented through working with Chief Thurman, we had some car manufacturers, okay, that I got to be very particular about how they didn't have the best design in protecting their car, their particular vehicle from being stolen. I'll say that. So what we've done is, I guess you could say, taking advantage of their opportunity to fix that issue. So you've seen, some of you have probably seen where we've made available these anti-theft devices at each precinct and at the police headquarters. And we encourage any owners that have the makes and models of Hyundai and Kia to come and get a free anti-theft device that you can place on your vehicle. That's something that will also discourage the UBVs, the unlawful breaking and entering of vehicles, or our car break-ins. So we're making every effort. We're trying to be creative. We're working with car manufacturers. We're working with business owners. We're working with the community to try to curb that. Of course, we're still beating the street, responding to the calls, being observant. We have operations with Deputy Chief Finney has worked with her auto theft detectives in planning operations where they sit and, well, I'm not going to give you all the details, but they're out there. All right, they're out there doing things. So, and I don't mind the criminal element doing that because they don't know which car we're in. But just know that we're doing every effort that we possibly can to try to address this issue. Chief.
So thank you. So one of the bigger things that we see is people leave their belongings in their cars. And a lot of our thieves today just go pull on door handles because so many cars are left unlocked. And that's where we need your help. Many of you probably seen our signs that say hide it, lock it, keep it. That's what we're referring to is hide your valuables, lock your vehicle, and you get to keep your belongings. And the other part, like Mayor Woodfin mentioned earlier, on a car break-in, you can sign yourself out of jail. So you go to jail, and our officers get very frustrated too because they continue to arrest the same individuals over and over again. The four major car manufacturers that we had problems with that for our auto thefts are Kia, Hyundai. Many of y'all seen the TikTok videos, the Kia boys. All it takes is a USB cable. You can steal those cars. They'll steal one, ride it for a while, then go steal another one, continue riding. The other one is the high-end Dodge Challenger and a high-end Dodge Charger. Those are also very vehicles that people really want to steal. So those are the ones that are really giving us fits at this point in time. But we've got to do more. One of the things that we're exploring right now is some camera trailers, which is cameras that we can move around throughout the city in high crime areas, whether it be for exhibition driving, whether it be for auto thefts, whether it be for shootings, whether it be whatever the case may be, where we can just move these and put these in areas that we know where crime is occurring to hopefully reduce that activity. And it gives the real-time crime center eyes and ears 24 hours a day while that camera is in that area.
Two things, Chief. One is acknowledge the second part of his question, which related to patrol, and then please acknowledge your other team members. Either order you want.
Right, so I got Deputy Chief Sheila Finney, who's over our Investigative Bureau. I got Deputy Chief Honorary Pruitt, who is next to her, who is over our Patrol Bureau. And I've got Assistant Chief LaQuayla Parham-Mack, who's over Administration. So we work collectively to devise plans, to devise things that we can do to combat crime throughout the city. And so, what was the second part of your question? Oh, so patrol, one of the things that we have is the call volume. The call volume continues to increase astronomically in our city. There's so many calls for service that literally our officers, for the most part, are running call to call to call to call. And what we're looking at is how can we reduce the call volume off of our police officers so they can spend more time in these areas or in your neighborhoods. So one of the things that we started in December, and thank you to Assistant Chief Mack, spearheading this, is call screening. There's a lot of calls that don't necessarily need a police officer to come out. Maybe it's just the person needs a police report. Well, just in December, we took almost not quite 200 reports over the telephone. That was 200 calls an officer didn't have to physically respond to. So we're constantly trying to find ways we can keep our officers in service, patrolling these areas. And so if you call the police, you may get transferred to our call screening. Those are police officers. And they're just injured right now, but we're going to use them so that they can take these reports over the telephone. They'll give you your case number. You can follow up with your insurance company. You can follow up with the city magistrate if you need to. But that keeps our officers in service. We have to be more, and it's just like the core values too. We have to be more efficient and more effective. And this is just one way of us to try and do that. We're constantly trying to find how can we be more efficient and serve the citizens of Birmingham better every day. And this is just one way we're trying to do it.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right. We got about 10 more minutes of Q&A, so let's do some rapid rounds.
Yes, sir.
Make sure we get as many questions as we can get answered.
Okay, this is all dealing with abandoned structures and code enforcement. Why does it take so long to enforce violations?
Katrina, you want to take it?
I'll just say, this is, most of the times, this is private property. And Alabama is a state that has very stringent protections for private property owners. And there's a very rigorous process, rigorous legal process that city staff have to go through in order to address these nuisance properties.
Yeah, so Katrina, I'll start it, but if you want to give any timelines, feel free. I'm just going to add on to what he said, everybody. The law does not allow city to just go on private property. Just because you see an overgrown lot doesn't mean we can go cut it. It's private. Just because you see a structure, whether it's burned out or the roof is caved in, the law doesn't allow us to just go on and remove it. And so for an abandoned structure, that can take months, if not years. And on an overgrown lot, that can take a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks. Just a clear process per state law. So it's not that we don't care. It's not that we don't want to engage it. It's that first, we want the person that owns it responsible. So we do a lot of reaching out to the person that owns it. And it turns out slumlords are not responsive and absentee lords are really not responsive. But it turns out slumlords and absentee owners have the same rights and privileges of private property as law-abiding people and clean people. And people are responsible for taking care of their own property. So are there any other timelines you want to give them on just process?
Mayor, you shared it, the timeline, so thank you, and I appreciate you sharing that because that was right on. It's a matter of educating people and understanding the process and also the challenges that we face with trying to get property owners to comply. So those structures that are structurally deficient or not structurally sound, we do take those properties through the condemnation process. If you look at the city council agenda, you will see where we declare those properties a nuisance, and then prior to even declaring them a nuisance, we do a lot of research, title searches to try to find out who the owner is and responsible party. Sometimes there are multiple owners. Sometimes they're not local, sometimes they're out of state. And so once we declare the nuisance, it does give us the ability to hire a third-party contractor to demolish the structure. We try not to do that as much, but we are strategic in doing that. Everything else that's just maybe vacant or abandoned and it's not dilapidated to the point of needing demolition by use of public funds, we take that through environmental court and try to get the property owner to come into compliance with the city's property maintenance code so that they can do those necessary repairs. We have all of our information regarding our processes at www.birminghamal.gov/code-enforcement. So we have a lot of information there, and I don't think I had a chance to introduce my team members here. Deputy Director Darren Witt, Building and Inspections Division, Artemis Willis, who leads code enforcement, so he leads that effort as it relates to dilapidated structures and zoning enforcement and housing enforcement and environmental enforcement. And Tracy Hayes is here. She's Deputy Director of our Planning, Urban Design, and Watershed Management Division. So we're very diligent with trying to address those concerns by also just educating everyone about the process. So that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
I hope y'all got that website. That was birminghamal.gov/code-enforcement.
Yes.
I got it. It is very frustrating on our end as well. You should know that we try to prioritize what we're responsible for first. With limited resources, public spaces, right? City right-of-ways, parks, etc. When we get the squeaky wheel issue or the complaint and they're limited resources or we can't contract out services, if we address that neighborhood issue, which we know is important to you and equally important to us, it puts us in the choice of which one do we prioritize, but it pulls resources from the things we're responsible for versus using your tax dollars on private property. So just consider that as well.
Just wanted to mention that one of the tools that we're trying to obtain, again, from the state legislature is the creation of a vacant property registration. So this is something that residents across the city of Birmingham have been asking for a long time. But you have a simplistic way of explaining it to them?
Which one?
The vacant property registration, creating an ordinance that would require properties that are essentially sitting vacant and abandoned, requiring those to be registered.
Anybody in community development want to help me with that? Anybody in the GA team want to help me with that? It's an important topic.
So this...
Oh, tell them who you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Venable Thomas. I serve as the Director of Community Development. And so this would require a registration fee for vacant properties to come onto a list so that one of our challenges is that we can't identify all the vacant properties that are out there. And so this enables us to be able to better understand what's out there so that we can then begin to identify and try and resolve those vacant properties that are on the list and registered.
We got this deep issue of heir property that gets caught up in the courts and between siblings fighting and nobody touches or keeps the property up. We have a sincere amount of what we call absentee landowners who live in real good somewhere in Florida or suburbs of Birmingham, and their property in Birmingham look a fool. Well, they don't want me to use the milk cart and stand in front of their house, so I'm working on that. Thank you. I appreciate you. But this is a problem, and it's not easy to solve. We need our legislators again in Montgomery to help us have more teeth in enforcement, so we're working on that. Go ahead, Rick.
A couple of questions on this various versions. A lot of these issues seem to deal with education as a core root. What is being done by the city to invest in schools and education for our children?
All right, come on up, James Sullivan. I'm not putting you on the spot, but I do want people, I'm not going to make him say anything, everybody. But he was in a press conference with me today on a very important topic that I want to give him, his colleagues, the superintendent, and the housing authority kudos for. So again, the three of us represent you in District 5. Your city councilor, your school board member, and mayor, and our team over here. I've known these guys before they were in both of their positions. They were neighborhood officers in District 5, Central City, and Crestwood North. They love District 5. And now we're all elected, and we represent you. And so one, on this education piece, what the city of Birmingham has attempted to do, before I get to James, is we've been intentional around the peripheral. If there's K through 12, then there's a window between birth and 5. If there's K through 12, there are things that happen after school, and possibly some during school, and then the exit strategy. So I'll talk about the exit strategy first. We created this program called Birmingham Promise. And that was a twofold initiative to say, as juniors and seniors, we want them to be afforded the same opportunities I had in high school, which was to leave early, work, get high school credit hours for working, and be paid for working in high school to be exposed to employment opportunities or their dream job or whatever that is. The other exit strategy we've invested in is if a young person wants to go to a state school, 2-year, 4-year college or university, and that institution accepts them, then their tuition is free. No questions about their GPA, SAT, ACT. If they get in, tuition's covered. All we ask is that they fill out their Pell Grant. We'll take care of the rest. So if their tuition is $10 and their Pell Grant only covers $1, we cover the $9. If they qualify for $0, we cover all 10. And if they qualify for $9, we recover the remaining $1. That is an opportunity that is a game changer, and it's a levels the playing field. But you can't miss the front end, which is birth to 5. So we had a meeting with the Ruth Ann Moss today, who leads a program called Birmingham Talks that's existed since 2019, that has touched 3,000 children and their families on the foundational years of the concept of words, numbers, etc. And then we talk about what happens K through 12, but still on the peripheral. So we're supporting them through conflict resolution, we're supporting them through mental health, we're supporting them through financial literacy. But what we find is everything can't be on James Sullivan, his colleagues, the superintendent, and the administrators and teachers in the school system. We have a chronic absentee problem that is not isolated to Birmingham City Schools. It is a national crisis. An article came out a week and a half ago about what this issue is doing to schools across the nation. It affects us. So today we stood before residents of a housing authority where this problem is higher than single-family homes and those who stay in apartments, etc. But in District 5, tell us how many public housing units you represent.
So I have 6 public housing communities. I don't know how many thousands of units it is, but it's thousands.
Definitely thousands. With that said, we created an incentive, we announced an incentive program today that parents can receive many things that entice them, that if their child has perfect attendance, then that parent's awarded. When we were children, we used to be awarded. But now we want to do anything we can to incentivize parents to make sure their children go to school. We find that F's can be D's, and D's can be C's, and C's can be B's if children just showed up. I'm not talking about their ability to read or do math. I'm isolating the conversation to just attendance. So this is something we're heavily focused on, in a 3-way partnership between the city, the school system, and the housing authority. Those are just some high-level things we're doing around education. I do want to publicly thank you in front of everybody. Rick has said we got 2 more questions, and then anything else, y'all just got to catch me after because I got to let y'all folk go home. We've been here since 6 and it's 7:36.
And we are also, some of the questions are more specific. We are coordinating to get some of the department heads to get with them either now or right afterwards too.
Cool.
So
I'm not going anywhere for a while.
So, Mayor, this is a question we got several of. Why are the interstate lights out all the time?
And so, gang, let me tell y'all what we should do. We, of all topics, should like just take a bus down to Montgomery. I'm just playing, everybody. This is like my favorite question, Dr. O'Quinn, because we don't control the lights on interstate. I know they're in our city limits, but everything on the interstate and above the interstate is 100% the responsibility of the State Department of Transportation. Now, James, would you like to close this question out by telling these folk some of the partnerships we've had and why this is a problem and how the calls we make to them, the letters we send to them? But y'all should know, y'all know they only like to spend money on repaving the streets that don't need repaving on the interstate, right? They don't like to spend the money on other stuff, including lights. So let me know when y'all ready to posse up and get on the bus. Go ahead, James.
Yes, sir. So on the interstates, a couple of points. So one of the reasons why that system, we see so many outages is, and we've probably talked about this with a lot of this crowd before, but there's a high degree of vandalism. So folks have gone in to steal copper wires. And so in the most recent project where the city partnered with the state to do restorations, so that's from downtown to the airport on 2059, we actually went back in with aluminum wire and we did some other things to make, to discourage theft. And so we believe that's going to be a more resilient system. One of the next stretches of roadway that is almost completely out that we're focused on in partnership with ALDOT is I-59 North from the airport up to the Trustful city limit. So that system is almost completely out. So we're working with ALDOT to do restorations there next. In some specific areas, we're making some targeted repairs in partnership with ALDOT. So I keep saying in partnership with ALDOT because that seems to be the way that we get the most traction. So the city's making an investment and they co-invest with us.
So you see the city giving our local dollars to a state responsibility job, but we're willing to do it because we want to keep y'all safe. By the way, when we do decide to get money, James, tell them how long it takes. It takes forever. How long did that one project take? 3 years or 4 years?
That project it predated us, but it was probably 5 years in making.
Just to fix lights. So the state, let me know when y'all ready to ride.
I want to point out too that this is not just the city of Birmingham problem. Like you ride around the area, you know, there's other municipalities that the lights are out in. So it's not like the thieves who are trying to steal the copper stop at the Birmingham city limit. You know, you go out to Leeds, you go out to Trustville, you go out to Irondale. I know that the lights are out there because I've looked, you know, and the same is true in other areas around the metro area.
So here's the deal. You all have been extremely kind with your time. The truth is I could stay here as long as you would allow me. However, we're going to do two things. I'm going to let him say some closing words, and I'll stay here if there's a question that you have and it's important to you and we haven't gotten to. But it's literally 7:40, so I'm going to let you say some closing remarks. We're going to let y'all go who want to go, and I'll stay for those who just have a question that's burning.
I just want to thank you guys for coming out again. You know, this is one occasion, but we're doing this work every day. Between myself, Maisha, Kim, Garrett, we are interacting with citizens every day. If you pick up one of our newsletters, which I encourage you to do, you'll see some stats on there. Just in the events alone, the District 5 office engages with the public at over 400 events annually. So, you know, whether that's a neighborhood meeting, whether that's a neighborhood cleanup, coming out to an event, doing a town hall, we're embedded in the community. We appreciate you guys working with us. Again, remember that power of you. we need you guys to be our eyes and ears and boots on the ground in the community. And if you're communicating with us, that enables us to be more effective representing you. So thank you.
A few thank yous, and we'll let you go. One is to start with Dr. Darrell Queen. I want to thank you for our partnership